The trade war is now impacting tomatoes. A new policy kicks in today, making way for a 21% price hike on tomato imports.
That's because of a new 21% tax on tomato imports from Mexico starting today.
Being plowed under instead of picked. That's the heartbreaking reality in South Florida. Farmers say they simply can't afford the cost of labor, and now millions of pounds of American tomatoes are rotting away in storage. Meanwhile, just across the border, Mexico is striking billion-dollar export deals with Asia and Europe. American farmers are left desperate, watching buyers walk away without a word.
New tariffs that could raise the price of tomatoes at the grocery store.
Mexico's sleek greenhouse operations are flooding global markets with flawless, polished produce. So, how did the United States go from feeding the world to being left behind in its own backyard? Welcome to the tomato crisis. At the center of the debate is a trade agreement that American farmers argue failed to stop a wave of underpriced Mexican imports. To break it down, I'm joined by Chad Smith, a tomato farmer who's living this struggle firsthand. Across states like California, Florida, and Texas, thousands of acres of tomatoes are being harvested, packed, and then left sitting with no destination. Shipments are being rejected, not because of disease, not because of weather, but because nobody is buying. Perfectly good tomatoes are either abandoned in storage or sold at rock-bottom prices that don't even cover production costs. And the harsh truth? This isn't a one-time crisis. It's quickly becoming the new normal. For decades, American farmers dominated, supplying tomatoes at home and abroad. The U.S. was a reliable source, producing massive volumes and moving fresh produce quickly. But today, that system is breaking down. Oversupply has crushed local prices, forcing farmers to sell at a loss. And international buyers? They're walking away. Not because American tomatoes taste worse, but because they're inconsistent and unpredictable. The deeper problem isn't the tomato itself, it's logistics. Many U.S. farms lack advanced cold chain technology, the kind that keeps produce fresh for long journeys. Without strict temperature control, tomatoes soften or spoil before reaching store shelves overseas. Add in inconsistent grading, long border inspections, and rising fuel costs, and even the highest quality crops can miss strict supermarket deadlines. American tomato growers are trapped in a system that once worked but no longer fits today's global market. Contracts that used to be secure are getting canceled or quietly shifted to competitors. Farmers wait for policies to catch up while their crops sit unsold. Meanwhile, Mexico is thriving. Mexican growers are locking in billion-dollar export contracts with Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Countries that once relied on U.S. tomatoes now look south instead. Why? Because Mexico is delivering what the market demands: better quality, better packaging, and better timing. Joining me now is another farmer who's been watching this shift closely. He says Mexico's rise wasn't luck, it was strategy. Massive investment in greenhouse technology gives them full control over growing conditions, appearance, and shelf life. The result is consistent quality that global buyers trust. Whether it's cherry tomatoes for restaurants in Italy or beefsteak tomatoes for supermarkets in Japan, Mexico delivers on time, every time. Trade deals have only widened the gap. While U.S. policies grow more unpredictable, Mexico is signing smart, stable agreements with key partners. Buyers who want certainty and long-term supply see Mexico as the safer bet. The government has worked hand-in-hand with exporters to build confidence, and that trust is paying off in billions. The difference is clear. While American tomatoes sit in storage, Mexican shipments are already sold, shipped, and displayed on store shelves worldwide. One country is stuck, the other is surging ahead. So what's wrong with U.S. tomatoes? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, nothing at all. A pound of field-grown tomatoes still sells for about $1.70. Brad Herzbein, senior economist and deputy, confirms what farmers already know. The tomatoes themselves aren't the issue. They're still grown from the same soil, the same seeds, and the same farming traditions passed down for generations. But still, buyers are walking away. Not because the tomatoes are spoiled or unsafe, but because they fail to meet the strict new standards of international markets. And those standards are getting tougher every single year. Today's global buyers demand precision. Every tomato in a shipment must look identical, same size, same color, and the exact stage of ripeness. It sounds simple, but in practice, it's one of the hardest challenges farmers face. American farms are up against unpredictable weather, sudden heat waves, heavy rains, and shifts in climate that all affect the fruit's appearance. One side of a field might produce flawless tomatoes, while the other side turns out soft, misshaped, or uneven. That small variation is enough for entire shipments to be rejected. The infrastructure makes things worse. Many U.S. farms still rely on outdated sorting and grading machines that can't meet modern buyer expectations. While competitors in Mexico or the Netherlands use advanced imaging systems to scan every tomato for imperfections, U.S. packers are often stuck with older, less precise tools. The result? Bruised or inconsistent tomatoes get mixed in with the good ones. And for overseas retailers, that's too risky. Cold chain logistics is another major weak point. Countries like Mexico and Spain ship tomatoes through perfectly controlled refrigeration systems from farm to shelf, extending freshness and shelf life. In the U.S., refrigerated storage and trucking are limited, and breakdowns or delays at ports are common. By the time American shipments arrive, tomatoes often lose their peak condition, even if they were perfect at harvest. And the global market has plenty of options. Buyers in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East can now choose between Mexico, Spain, Morocco, and more. When they see delays, inconsistent sizing, or short shelf life from U.S. shipments, they move on instantly. It's not about bad tomatoes. It's about a supply chain that isn't keeping up. Farmers are growing quality crops, but without smarter logistics, modern infrastructure, and reliable packaging, their hard work never reaches consumers. Mexico, meanwhile, has cracked the code. It's not just about growing, it's about delivering in perfect condition every single time. Their greenhouse-grown tomatoes are uniform in size, color, and ripeness. International buyers know exactly what they're getting, and that predictability is priceless. Packaging has also become a point of pride. Mexican exports are cleaned, sorted with cutting-edge technology, and shipped in durable, protective materials. Whether bound for a supermarket in Tokyo, a hotel in Dubai, or a fresh market in Toronto, those tomatoes arrive looking just as flawless as when they left the greenhouse. And then there's speed. Mexico's export system is efficient, with shorter transit times and streamlined border clearance. Strong cold chain logistics keep shipments refrigerated from start to finish, guaranteeing long shelf life. For massive grocery chains and food service companies, that reliability is everything. Every extra day of freshness means less waste, fewer losses, and more profit. So when buyers compare a shipment from Mexico to one from the U.S., and the Mexican tomatoes last longer, look better, and arrive on time, the choice becomes obvious. But it's not just about freshness. There's also trust. Buyers across Europe, Asia, and even inside the U.S. know they can count on Mexico to deliver exactly what was promised. Their government actively supports exporters with food safety standards, trade agreements, and stable policies. That stability builds confidence, while American policy shifts and logistical breakdowns raise red flags. Mexico also understands the importance of professional communication. Exporters don't just ship tomatoes, they send detailed updates on crop quality, delivery schedules, and even handling guidelines. That level of transparency makes international retailers feel like they're working with serious long-term partners, not just seasonal suppliers. In today's global market, where a single delay can cost millions, that kind of reliability is priceless. The truth is, Mexico's edge doesn't come from growing better tomatoes. It comes from building a stronger chain from seed to store. Every link, farming, sorting, packaging, refrigeration, and transport, is designed for precision and consistency. Until the U.S. reaches that same standard of precision, packaging, and trust, it will continue to lose ground in the tomato trade, and the impact at home is devastating. In California, Florida, and Texas, Tomato farmers are facing their toughest season in decades. They've planted, watered, and harvested like always. But now, buyers simply aren't there. Some farmers are leaving ripe crops in the field because it costs more to pick and pack them than they could ever sell for. For many, this is heartbreaking. Markets that once guaranteed steady contracts are disappearing. Even loyal buyers are switching to Mexico, where the supply chain is faster and more reliable. Farmers who've dedicated generations to tomato growing say they've never felt so helpless. And the pain doesn't stop in the fields. Processing plants, those that turn fresh tomatoes into sauce, paste, and canned goods, are cutting shifts or shutting down lines. Packing houses that sort and label tomatoes can't afford to keep full crews. Truck drivers are waiting for loads that never come. Even small supply stores selling fertilizer and tools are seeing fewer customers. It's a ripple effect. One weak link in the chain spreads across the entire local economy. Families are forced to dig into savings, sell equipment, or take on debt just to survive the season. Many have no backup plan because everything they own is tied to farming. And the hardest truth? These farmers aren't losing because their tomatoes are bad. They're losing because the system around them, cold storage, export infrastructure, and buyer trust, has fallen behind. Without urgent change, more fields will go unpicked, more plants will close, and more families will be forced out of a business they've given their whole lives to. At the grocery store checkout, most shoppers don't think twice about where their tomatoes come from. But behind the scenes, the global produce game is shifting fast, and it's starting to hit American farmers where it hurts. For decades, the U.S. was seen as the reliable source. If you needed bulk tomatoes, you signed with California or Florida. But today, big buyers, supermarkets, processors, and distributors from Asia to Europe are quietly moving their contracts south of the border. And the reason is simple. They don't just want good tomatoes anymore. They want stability. In the U.S., policy keeps changing. One week there's a tariff, the next week it's lifted. That uncertainty scares off long-term buyers. Nobody wants to lock in $1 million deal if politics can tear it up overnight. Add in chronic labor shortages, farms short on workers, produce left in the fields, and the reputation of U.S. tomatoes as unreliable is growing. And in the export business, reliability is everything. Mexico, meanwhile, is playing a different game. Greenhouse technology, steady labor, cold chain logistics, all dialed in. Their government is even striking billion-dollar export agreements years in advance. To a global buyer, that's music to the ears. Predictable pricing, predictable delivery, predictable quality. The result? Trust. And once buyers trust a supplier, they rarely go back. It's not about loyalty. It's about who makes life easier. And right now, Mexico is giving the world clean deals, fewer surprises, and high-quality tomatoes that arrive on time. The bigger picture? It's not just about tomatoes. It's about what global buyers value most in 2025: consistency. And unless the U.S. finds a way to fix its labor gaps and stabilize its trade policies, the shift could become permanent. So here's the real question. Is America losing its grip on one of its oldest industries? Or is Mexico simply proving it's the future of global agriculture? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden battles shaping our food supply, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss the stories that matter.